The truth about age gap marriages. Are you the exception? Dr. Phil just dropped a truth bomb about age gap marriages, and the stats are shocking. If you think love is enough to beat the odds, think again. I want us to watch this clip as Dr. Phil debunks the 50% divorce myth and sharing some real divorce rates. Let's take a look.
And the number one reason for divorce, period, is incompatibility. And when you're 53 and 24, there's some incompatibility. You want to go to sleep in your recliner, she wants to go jogging. I mean, there can be a huge difference.
Well, right now I feel we get along great. I mean, the future, there will be some issues we got to work through.
Now, we always hear half of marriages what end in divorce. Have you heard that? Isn't is that the statistics you have gone by and heard for so many years? But the real numbers tell a different story. And when you add an age gap into the mix, things get even crazier. So let's break it down. Before we do, though, if this is your first time being on this channel, my name is Kingsley Grant. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach, and I help wives of entrepreneurial husbands, wives like you who have a busy husband, someone who is constantly seem to be on the job working. I help wives of that husband to rekindle love and deepen intimacy without losing their joy and their peace. And if that's you, you are in the right place. Now, there is a very important reference of scripture I want to share because it kind of set the tone for where we're going. And that is where the Solomon, the wisest man who had what, 1,000 wives or women in his life? How many wives and concubines? If there's somebody who knows about marriage and relationship, he should. Wouldn't you say? Here's what he said in Proverbs 15, verse 22. He says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. So, what does that have to do with this whole conversation today? Well, there is something about having wisdom in choosing a marriage partner. Now, obviously, you might have already chosen one, and maybe you chose someone who was much older than you or much younger. And so, what happened is you are finding yourself in this situation, and maybe it's creating an issue for you, and that's why you're here. So, if wisdom and counsel matter in business and finances, why not in marriage? And that's why Solomon is saying that it's very important that if you find yourself in a situation or have not yet, but you find yourself kind of moving towards having someone much older than you to get married, then you might want to take some counsel and some wisdom from somebody who might have done that or learn from this video itself. So, what's the real problem with age gaps and divorce risks? Is there a big issue? Well, here's what I do know that love might be blind, as you may have heard, but statistics are not, right? As we have heard, love numbers don't lie. The bigger the age gap, the higher the divorce risk. And Dr. Phil lays out the numbers. And again, remember, numbers don't lie. Dr. Phil listing divorce rates based on age gaps. This is crazy, right? 39% if your age gap is at least 10 years. 95% for those who are 20 years. And get this, 172% for 30 years age gap. Currently, this current administration have a a spokesperson, right? This young lady, she is very articulate, and you see her, she act very, even beyond her age, one of the youngest press secretary. But do you know that her husband is 30, almost 30 years older than her? Actually, I think it's 25 to 26 years older. And she talks about that as that she has a great relationship. And I would say it sounds like she does. But is age an issue? Well, I don't know her story. I don't know what goes on or what will go on, but I want to show that there are some things about that. And let's take a look at this clip where Dr. Phil talks about the age gap and the percentage of those that leads to divorce. Let's watch this.
Because there are also statistics on the likelihood of divorce based on age gap. If there's a 10-year age gap, 39%. A 20-year age gap, 95%. A 30-year age gap, 172% likelihood of divorce.
Wait, did he say 172% more likely? Listen, that's not just a red flag. That's a flashing neon sign, wouldn't you say? I mean, come on. Now you might be thinking, but we're different, right? You've heard that many times. How often have I heard in working with couples, because I've been doing this for almost 2 decades as a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have been myself been married for almost 4 decades, 40 years. So as of this recording, I'm just knocking on the door of 40 years. So you might be thinking that we're different. How often have I heard that? We are different. Our situation is different. Have you heard that? Did you make that statement, or are you making that statement? And again, I'm not here to judge or to say that, I get it. In the moment, that's what we're thinking. So the idea is we're different. Well, are you, or are you failing to acknowledge the reality? And even more, are you falling into a predictable pattern? The scripture says, and this is very interesting, where the Bible said in Galatians 6, verse 7, be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Now, this is not a judgment. It's all about recognizing that we all make choices. But here's what happened. We can make a choice, but we cannot choose the consequences of our choice. The choices we make today will have consequences later. We cannot choose that. And this is not fear mongering, right? That's biblical wisdom. And sometimes it's important for us to take the time to look at our lives and be honest and even hear hard truths by those around us. Most times, people around us are telling us things, but what happens? We shut our ears. We don't want to hear that. Who wants to hear that at this point when I'm so happy and I'm so much in love, right? But no, this is the time to listen, because we never know that people who are telling us some things, they have either been there, know someone who have been there, or they're seeing things that you might not be seeing. When you're so close to something, it's harder for you to see it than when someone who's farther away, right? Because there are signs we overlook. And so the choices we make today, like I mentioned, will have consequences later. And so here's a harsh reality. And this is where sometimes we must face the truth. We must take the time to face the truth. We cannot somehow close our eyes and hoping that the truth may not catch up with us. The harsh reality, aging and relationship struggles are real. They are real when the thing, you see, right now it might be fine. Right now it's all fun and exciting. I know a couple. Actually, I remember this young lady. She got married to this older man. He had some teenagers at the time. So her age and this man's children were very close. They almost like buddies, like friends. It was hard for them to see her as a stepmom, and they choose to not even recognize her as a stepmom. Understandably so, because they're thinking she's just a few years older than we are. Am I going to call her stepmom? And they refused, and that was okay. She understood that going in. She understood that going in. But as time has passed, At times it has passed. She've had some internal conflict and reservations and conversations that would indicate that she wished it wasn't that way. But of course, she loves her husband and he loves her. But I can see as they're getting older. They've been married for now, I think, some 8 years or more. And as he's getting older, you can tell the difference begins to show up. So here's the part no one talks about. Right now, a 29-year age gap might feel manageable. But fast forward 20 or 30 years, which sometimes people don't think about, they don't want to think about. They're so locked into the moment and they don't want to face the reality. But fast forward 20 or 30 years, and the difference is undeniable. Undeniable. And sometimes it's important. Imagine if you were to use AI and, take your picture and your spouse's picture and put them up on AI, and AI was to kind of fast forward that in 10, 15, 20 years, and you're seeing the aging process and looking at yourself 15 years from now, 20 years from now, and your spouse who is 15 or 20 years older, whatever it is, in this case, 29 years, and you're thinking, wow, this is reality. So when you fast forward, the difference is undeniable. And Dr. Phil, what he did, he showed that. He showed the aging progression, right? And the aging progression he showed is a 44 years and a 73-year-old, and a 54 years and 83 years. That's the difference in the age gap. Take a look and see how this looks, and maybe put yourself in this moment and see what it looks like. But look at this.
Okay, here's the difference when you're 44 and 73. This is your age difference. And you see, you accelerate in aging much more than she does. And here's the age difference at 54 and 83. So the age gap is this much now, but it's that much in 20 years, is that much in 30 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, you start aging a lot faster. But you got to have a 172% chance of never getting there anyway.
Right.
So here is the thing. This isn't about love, right? It's about reality. Reality. And that's why I think sometimes people don't want to face the reality, especially when they're so much in love. And especially if they're looking for somebody, a companion who is giving them the attention or that fatherly figure or that motherly figure, and they're playing that role. And right now it's all cute and the nostalgic piece of it, but that wears off. That's not reality. Energy levels, health challenges, even the way you experience life completely shifts because you're in two different stages of life. It's not the same. And that's why so many couples in age gap marriages struggle down the road. I cannot tell you how many, and I really haven't worked with a whole lot, but I've worked with a few, and I've heard the stories. I've heard the stories that I'm thinking, if I was to be able to say, hey, sit down, let me tell you, let me encourage you. And it's not about somehow not loving the person, you can, but it's reality. It's reality. As I mentioned before, I've worked with so many different couples. And so one of the couples that I have worked with, in the early stages, I mean, she was adoring her husband, who was 25 years older. And you cannot tell her anything. And she, you told her about the age gap ID and the fast forward. She said, "So I can do that. I can put up with that. I'm okay. I can take care of him. I can take care of him." And she adored him until she found herself being more of a caretaker than a wife in her 50s. And this is what comes up in those conversations, in the quiet moments where the real person is speaking, that they'll say, I didn't sign up to be a widow before I even turned 60. And now the reality began to set in. And her love was real, but so was the emotional toil. That has a reality. It's nothing you can do about that. When, I this in recent times, we heard the story of Gene Hackman, who was the actor who was 95, I think it was, and his wife. I forgot her name, but she was, I think it was 69 or no, 50. She was, he was 35 years older than her, 35 years older. And so I think she had, yeah, she was 60, he was 95. And they found that, of course, that both of them, unfortunately and sadly, both of them were found in their house dead. And based upon the um, everything that has been discussed, right, that they were dead in the house at least 9 days, more than a week. And they said she died way before he did. And he had Alzheimer's, and I don't know what the relationship was like, but imagine she's 60, taking care of her husband, 95 years old, who could be her father. And I don't know the relationship, but when I think about that and I look at the age difference, the pictures that they show of him hardly walking, just kind of wobbling and, hunched over, and she's in her 60s. She still look like her life is ahead of her. Unfortunately, both of them died, but I can just imagine what that must have been like. So the question becomes, why people ignore? Why do people ignore the warnings? This ain't no other warnings. Of course, I kind of hinted at some is we're in love, and maybe this person is special and showing them attention and providing. And sometimes people will say, they're gold diggers, right? They're in it for what they can get, and they'll say, of course not. I'm not in that for what I can get, but let that person die and see what happens. So, but here's what's crazy: people know the risks and still dive in. Maybe you did. And so one of the things I talk about is entrepreneurial husbands, right? Imagine in the early stages when your entrepreneurial husband is man, he's kicking out things, cranking out things, he's dynamic, and you're just so enamored by that because you are reaping all the benefits of all of that. And now, and now, you're now settling in for the reality. So people know the risk, you know the risk, I know the risk, we all know the risks. But what happened is that emotions override logic. Listen to how this couple defends their relationship. And maybe say if you saw yourself in this at one point, see yourself in it, or you know of other couples who might be saying this very thing. And the husband, he's saying in this clip, if we're happy, why does it matter? She also, I mean, actually, the wife said it. If we're happy, why does it matter? Who cares? Let's take a look at what transpired here.
And my business fails prior, I get back up and I keep trying.
Well,
I'm going to keep running my head into the wall till I bust the wall or bust my head, and hopefully I'm not busting my head with Brooke.
and this is your third marriage.
Yes.
Now, you've got emotion involved. Take the emotion out. Say I was selling you a car, okay, instead of marriage. And I said, okay, now, David, this car I'm selling you, I'm going to admit to you it's old. And I don't know whether it's going to run or not. Because 172% of the time we get in it, it does not run. Okay?
Yeah.
And I know you've bought it once, I know, and it didn't work. And I know I sold it to you a second time and it didn't work. And I know I sold it to you now a third time I'm asking you to buy it, and it hasn't ever worked before. But what do you say? You want to buy this?
Like, we're not a car. Like, that's just different. We're both being optimistic, and honestly, like,
I don't feel there's
if we're happy,
I don't
then
feel the age
why,
difference between me and Brooke.
why does it really
No,
matter to
you
anybody
don't feel
else?
the age difference so much right now.
Right.
It sounds romantic, right? Love conquers all. But look at his own words. He's hoping it works. That's what he's saying. He's hoping it works. This is his third marriage. He's hoping it works despite the odds. As like Dr. Phil says, it's like buying a car with a 172% chance of the car breaking down and thinking, I've done it the first time, it didn't work, it broke down. I did it the second time, it broke down. You know what? I'm gonna do it a third time. Who does that? Isn't that what he's doing here? So 172% chance of breaking down. And maybe in his mind, will be the exception. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It did break down the first time. It was 172% chance it broke down. Second time and third time, and you're gonna try it again. Sometimes people want to deceive themselves and they have this delusion. Oh, we're the exception. Really? And he is saying something like, maybe he keeps on knocking his head against the wall and hoping that something will change. What I've known is that if you keep on doing the same things you've always done, as we know, that's insanity. And expecting different results is crazy. I love what Vince Lombardi said. He said, hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. So he is hoping for that. But after two failed marriages, wouldn't you by now realize it's not a strategy? So I would love to hear your thoughts. I mean, what are you thinking so far? One of the things that I have done is as I've worked with couples and, a few, like I mentioned before, with this age gap issue, and others because of their husband being an entrepreneur and how she feels he's married to his job, and that in itself have enough stress, just by itself when there's no age gap, that has enough stress of its own. That led me to one day to actually write a book. I hope I can find it. Yeah, here it is. It had me to write a book because when I've done and listened to those stories of wives, just of husbands, not the age gap issue, but because they're an entrepreneur and the wife is feeling so distant, and the stress of the relationship, the emotional stress, the emotional distancing, and physical because the intimacy is not even there. What I did, I realized, how can I help a wife like that? Like I'm trying to help you here. How can I help a wife on an ongoing basis? And so I came up and I wrote this book, and this is a shameless plug, but I think it's important. I wrote this book, The Joyful Wife: 7 Connection Skills to Better Understand Your Husband, Rekindle Love, and Deepen Intimacy. A very easy read. But I speak about the idea of how does a wife, how does a wife rekindle love? How does she better understand her husband? You see, when the age gap is there, it's a lot more difficult because it's harder because the stage of life. It's harder to think about what that looks like if your husband is a whole lot older than you or your wife is. But in this case, I'm speaking to wife, so your husband is much older than you. It's hard. So I don't have a book for the age gap, but I have a book for those who are with an entrepreneurial husband. And hopefully, if you have not yet heard of this book, it's new. Actually, it just came out this March 2025. So it's a very new book. And so if you want to get a copy, it's on Amazon in print format. You can get a copy of that. I would love for you to get a copy. And if you do, tag me with a picture on social media, Instagram, Facebook. I would say preferably Instagram or wherever you are, because I'm on all social media at Kingsley Grant, and I would love to see you tag me there, and I would love to see a picture of you with the book in hand. I would really appreciate that. So even though it doesn't address age gap differences, it still address some of the struggles that come as a result of that. So the question that I began with is, are you the exception? At the end of the day, every couple believes they're the exception. But are they really? The numbers don't lie. And Dr. Phil just gave the ultimate warning. The question is, will people listen? If you've not been married and you know somebody who's getting married and this is an issue, maybe you might want to have them watch this video. And hopefully you're getting something from this. Now, I know sometimes, this becomes an issue and you don't know how to address this because it's a very delicate matter. So I believe that if you have 172% chance of never getting there, I would say it's better to have no marriage. And here's what Dr. Phil, how he put it. Let's watch this clip together about this idea of 172% chance. Let's watch this.
54 and 83. So the age gap is this much now, but it's that much in 20 years, is that much in 30 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, you start aging a lot faster. But you got to have 172% chance of never getting there anyway.
Right.
Now, maybe as you've watched that and you're thinking, well, Kingsley, I'm already married. I'm already married, so I just, yeah, that might be how you're thinking right now. Now, maybe you're in an age gap marriage where it's beyond 10 years as he describes. And, you know, the what ifs are coming up for you. It's now your reality. Listen, God is still in your story. You're not stuck and you're not alone. This is the time to lean into prayer, find a support system, and pour into things that bring you joy, hobbies, friendships, serving others, self care. You've got to take care of yourself and understand this is now your lot in life. This may be looked at as a cross, as Jesus says, take up your cross daily and follow him. Maybe this might be seen, and I don't want to somehow suggest that you're saying it's a cross you're bearing, but it may feel that way. But maybe you're simply saying, you know what? I'm committed. I'm taking this up every day, but I also have to self-care. And I make some suggestions to you. So you don't have to lose yourself in this. Just because your marriage has challenges doesn't mean you have to stop growing, right? Jesus said, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Another translation says more abundantly in John 10, verse 10. That includes you, dear wife. It includes you. So I know that this is not an easy conversation, especially once you're in it. But I hope it raised some things for you. And if you want to actually be a part of my boot camp, where I kind of unpack the joyful wife idea, but also create a bridge how you can get from where you are to where you want to get, where it's transformation, and you're interested in knowing more about that, I've created a program called Happier Marriage by Design. Happier Marriage by Design. It's a boot camp, a 6 weeks boot camp. And if you're interested in getting on the wait list, I want to suggest you go to buildyourhappiermarriage.com/waitlist. Get on that. And as for just signing up for that, I'll send you a free gift just for signing up and get on the wait list. When I open the program, you will be notified. And if you so choose, it'll be a great place for you to come and go a bit deeper in some of the things I couldn't even go through all today. So what do you think? Are age gap marriages doomed, or can love truly defy the odds? I would love for you to drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And I would also encourage you to share this video with at least one other person. And maybe I would also encourage you, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, to please go ahead and subscribe right now. Hit that subscribe button. And if this is something that you like, then hit that like button. But I'd love to hear from you in the comment about what you think. And the question I'm asking is, are age gap marriages doomed? Or can love truly defy the odds? Maybe it's your personal experience or you know of someone. I'd love for you to put it in the comments below, and let's have a conversation. We'll respond to every comment that's made, but let's have a civil conversation, right? And in that way, we can get to learn from each other. So I look forward to hearing from you as you do that. Now, this video right here, I want you to watch this and also share that with at least one other person, because I cover also some other things that I think will be important to you. And you recognize that this video today is a bit different than my regular videos, but I thought I wanted to address this issue. I've seen it and heard it, and I thought maybe, hey, why not speak about it here on this channel? So watch this video, other video right here, and may God bless you. Thank you for taking the time to watch. And remember, you're one connection scale, one connection scale away from a happier marriage. That's it. So may God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Peace out.